Welcome to the Hello Sunday podcast with me, Nikki Hayden. This is the podcast that discusses everything self-development, spirituality and sobriety, and it wouldn't be me without a little sprinkling of humour. Whether you are just starting out on your journey of self-development or have been exploring these topics for years, are completely alcohol-free or just curious about living a more sober lifestyle, this is the podcast for you. Each week, I'll be exploring topics in both solo episodes and with some amazing guest experts. So if you like what you hear, then please subscribe, rate and review. So with that said, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Hello Sunday. It is great to be back for another week, guys. If you're listening to this in real time, it's actually the bank holiday weekend in the UK. So I hope you're all doing really well and having lots of fun and you've got lots of nice plans, whether that is with the family or with your friends, whether you're partying, chilling, dare I say it, working. Hopefully you've managed to take a break. So if there's anything that you've learnt from this podcast, it is that we all need balance and a break. Well, balance, I guess that's a whole different topic, but I hope you've managed to do some nice stuff, get some rest, and that you are enjoying the longer weekend. We're at 50 episodes, guys. 50 episodes. Technically, it's actually 51 because I did do a Sober October episode last year, which I didn't number up because it was just a short little interlude and just a bit of like motivation for anyone wanting to do Sober October. So yeah, technically we're at 51, but we're counting this as episode 50. It's been over a year that I've been doing this podcast, and yeah, who would have thought, hey? I think I've read a stat where it said something like most podcasts don't get past like 10 or 11 episodes, and I've got no plans to stop yet, so I'm really, really excited that we've reached this milestone. And also thank you so much to anyone that has either been here from the start or gone back to listen from the start. And if you haven't, let me give you a word of warning. The sound isn't great and I definitely needed to slow down and just, yeah, it's been a learning process, but let's put it that way. But this week I put a little question box on the Instagram of the Hello Sunday podcast. Hello Sunday podcast Instagram. And I asked for topics and suggestions of things that you wanted to listen to. Now, some of them, I must admit, were really good topics. I don't know if they're quite aligned with what this, well, not that I don't know if they're aligned, but like, for instance, someone said relationships, which I just don't feel like I'm that equipped to talk about. Like, I don't know, maybe I will do a topic on my experiences and what self-love has taught me about relationships. But yeah, in terms of giving advice and guidance on relationships, I mean, I'm no expert, so we'll see about that one in the future. But a couple of people, and actually not just my female listeners, which was really interesting, asked if I could do more around kind of like spirituality and I guess like things associated with more like spiritual themes. And I've always kept this podcast quite action focused and around goal setting and achieving your goals. But actually there is a whole side of me that is super, super passionate about spirituality and energy and being connected to source and the universe and really doing things, I guess, with a little bit more guidance, and it's less about the doing and more about the being with spirituality. So I am going to talk a little bit more about that today. I'm going to keep it as close to 30 minutes as I can because this topic has the propensity for me to go on and on down different rabbit holes and go off on tangents. So I'm going to try and keep it to a structure. I have made some notes, so if you hear me rustling about in the background, then that is why, because I just don't want to end up going down the rabbit holes and off on tangents, and then it ended up being an hour of my ramblings about all different topics. So we're going to talk today about the law of attraction. Now, I actually did an episode early on, I think it was episode 5, around manifestation, which is in essence is the same thing. Manifestation, law of attraction are kind of interchangeable, and they have been, I guess, given a bit of a bad rap. They've become a bit of a buzzword on social media. You will likely have heard of it, and it will probably have either piqued your interest or you'll have brushed it off as, woo-woo Gen Z bullshit. Law of attraction and manifestation were first brought to most people's attention. I mean, these are topics and ideas and theories and laws that have been going around from many, many, many years. But it was the book The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, and also a book called Ask, Believe, Receive by a couple called Esther and Jerry Hicks, that most people will have probably first come across these ideas, or it will have been their first kind of like foray into the law of attraction. And I think the only thing that I will say is that social media and those books do tend to go down the route of and make people think that it is really just about, you think about what you want and you get it. That you ask, believe, receive. You just ask for it, you believe you're going to get it, and you receive it. And that, positive thoughts bring about positive outcomes. And I guess that kind of is the law of attraction. It is how you manifest, but there's a massive part within that around taking action and embodying the feelings that it really feels like that misses out. Not really so much maybe in The Secret, but Ask, Believe, Receive, it for me just does not quite go deep enough. So what the law of attraction is, in essence, its very core, is about your energy aligning and being a vibrational match for what it is that you want to attract. Now, there's other laws called the law of assumption, which is very much about just embodying and being, and it's not about attracting what you want to you. It's about just knowing that it exists in another realm. That is more based on quantum physics. Not going to go so much into that today. That is a really, really interesting path that you can go down. It's something that you can explore. And maybe if you're not a beginner or on the start of your journey with the law of attraction, it's something that you might want to explore. But for the purpose of today, we're going to stick to exploring your energy and how that can really affect what it is that you're trying to attract into your life and the outcomes of what you're trying to attract. So we are all energy, right? I think we get taught at school in year 3 or 4 science, that we are all energy. Nothing in this world is actually solid. Everything is just atoms vibrating that give the appearance of being solid. But actually, if you got them under a microscope that was more powerful enough to be able to view what it is that they're doing, it's just vibrating atoms. So everything, whether that is the chair that you're sat on, the bed that you sleep in, the car that you drive, you as a human being, everything on planet Earth is vibrations. It's energy, and it all gives off a vibrational frequency. Now, there has been scientific experiments done on this, and again, it's something I'm not going to go into today. I think I did cover off a little bit in that episode about manifestation and gratitude as well. We did an episode on gratitude that talked about the different vibrational frequencies of emotion. But in essence, everything has a vibrational frequency, and some things are really low vibrational frequency and some things have a really high vibrational frequency. And it's pretty much a given that if something is really joyous and good and wholesome, that the energy the frequency that it vibrates on is higher than low vibrational things. So for instance, emotions wise, joy and happiness are right at the top of the scale, whereas fear and sadness and anxiety are really low down the vibrational frequency scale. So the law of attraction states that to attract what you want, you have to vibrate at the same frequency as what it is that you want. So if you want something, if you've got aspirations to have something or to draw something and attract something into your life, that you have to match that frequency, or you have to be on a high vibrational frequency. It's a little bit like tuning a radio in. And actually there's a motivational speaker and a self-development teacher called Noor Hibbert. She talks about Universe FM. So she says you need to tune into Universe FM. So in essence, you are trying to create a higher vibrational frequency each day with everything that you do, with the habits that you build, with the thoughts that you have, the emotions that you get into. You're trying to create a high vibrational frequency. Now, we are not talking toxic positivity here. We are not saying that every single day you have to be joyous and happy and everything's great. Life happens, right? You're not going to attract shit stuff into your life just because you have one bad day. But you'll know yourself, people who are super miserable and negative, they tend to have things happen to them that are depressing and miserable. And people that are happy and see the positives and are, they just radiate that joy. You must have people in your life, even if they're not directly in your circle, which, by the way, if you don't have people like this in your circle, then I suggest you go out and find some friends that are, but who are like joyous, and they just share really great ideas, and they're always, not always, but they're generally quite happy, and they radiate good, and they always try and see the positive, and they don't bring you down. The sort of friends that when you've spent time with them, or maybe family members, that when you spend time with them, you come away and you're like, oh, it just feels so good. And then there must be people in your life where you feel the opposite. You come away and you feel quite drained. My nan, I think I mentioned this on last week's episode, but she's obviously like a gorgeous human. She's 96. She lived through the war. She's so innocent. But in her older age, because she's experienced so much grief and loss, and most of the people that she grew up with and loved have now left this world, she's quite a bitter, negative person. She'll always create a fear or a worry or an anxiety around something when actually it hasn't happened. And because of that, she doesn't attract good things into her life. Like, she's got a wonderful family and people around her, but you never hear her say, very, very rarely hear her say, oh my gosh, that happened today and it was so good, or this, I'm really looking forward to that. It's always, oh, that could be nice, but this might happen. And to the contrary, I've got people in my life who will, I might say to them, oh, I'm worried about this. And they'll say, yeah, but that might not happen. What if this happens and it's even better than you expected? And because of that, things are always happening to and for them that are really, really exciting and just really positive, good things. It's pretty much a given. It's pretty much understood that in human psychology, our thoughts will create our beliefs, and our beliefs will create our feelings. And then in turn, our feelings are what create our behavior and our habits, and it's the feelings that we have that drive us forward. We're emotional beings. So let me give you an example. If you have the thought of, I don't know, let's use an example of at work, right? So let's give the example of boss has made a meeting at work, right? They've put a meeting in your diary, and we've probably all been there at some point if we've ever been employed, where they put a meeting in your diary and it just says catch up. They don't give any context. They don't give anything around that meeting to suggest whether it's a positive or negative meeting. But if you are somebody that has a propensity to think quite negatively, your thoughts might go something like, oh my gosh, they've put a meeting in, it must be bad. Which in turn could create a belief that you're going to get fired, or you're going to get told off, or there's going to be something that is negative about that meeting, and that's your belief that the meeting is negative. And in turn, that creates a feeling of anxiety. Now, let's say the meeting isn't until tomorrow. That anxiety you're carrying around with you for the entire rest of the day and right up until that meeting. You might walk into that meeting and your boss might sit down and say, look, I've noticed the great work that you're doing and we'd like to give you a bonus. Or they might say, I've noticed the great work that you're doing and we would love you to lead on this exciting new project. There could be 1,000,001 reasons why they're calling you into that meeting. But your first thought when you see that is negative, and therefore that creates a belief that the meeting is going to be negative, and the feeling that you have is anxious, and therefore your behaviour for the rest of that evening right up until the meeting the next day is anxious. It's, you're not creating a sense of joy, and you're not creating a good atmosphere for those around you. So that one thought about that meeting that you have zero context for, you have zero evidence, creates those feelings and that behaviour. To the contrary, your colleague might have the same meeting put in and think, oh, great, a meeting, what's this about? That's exciting. I bet they want to brief me on a new project, or what if they want to promote me, or what if they want to give me some praise? And their belief is that that meeting is going to be a positive one. And therefore the feelings that they create are of excitement and, excited anticipation. So they go into that meeting with a much more positive attitude. Now, the result of that meeting could be affected by your feelings about it, and therefore how you've conducted yourself, because you could go in really anxious, really not giving out good energy, and your boss might think, okay, maybe I'm second guessing whether I should be giving them this project or this promotion, because they don't seem to be very confident or very happy at the moment. So you can make yourself anxious, scared, fearful, just by one single thought that creates that belief that then creates the feeling inside of you. The mind is such a powerful tool. It's why visualization is so powerful. The people that were in the Olympics this year, the athletes, the amount of them that talked when they were interviewed afterwards about visualization and envisaging themselves, not necessarily on the podium, but just doing their absolute best, whether it was Emily Campbell in the weightlifting, lifting her personal best, whether it was Simone Biles doing the gymnastics, they all spoke about visualization and the power of belief, and creating a belief which created a feeling of real positivity within them. Because if you go into something believing that you're not going to be able to do it, the feeling that you create is not going to be one of confidence, and therefore it's going to affect your ability. It's going to affect the outcome. So the power really is all in observing your thoughts and creating better thoughts. And then that in turn creates a better belief, which creates a higher frequency emotion. So this end emotion is what we are trying to create an effect. But you can only do that by really believing the outcome, and that can only come from the initial thought. So if your initial thought is one of God, that meeting, I wonder why they put that in. I bet it might be a bad thing. I bet it's a bad thing. I bet I've done something. You need to observe that thought, which is the part that most people don't do, right? Most people out there are walking around completely oblivious to their thoughts. The fact that you're even listening to this podcast right now suggests that you want to improve yourself. It suggests that you want to develop your own self and your ability to think better and to do better and to achieve more. So the power is all in catching that initial thought. And if it is a negative thought, just really being the jury on that thought and creating evidence. And we've done this before. We did a podcast episode. It was all about limiting beliefs and being the judge and jury on those beliefs and really taking those thoughts to court, looking at the thoughts. So in this instance, in this example, we would look at the thought of, I bet that meeting's a bad one. I bet I'm going to get fired or made redundant. we'd say to ourselves, okay, well, that's one possibility, but what are the other possibilities? I have been doing good work lately, and I know the company's performing well, so maybe it's about promoting me, or maybe it's about giving me a new project, or maybe it's about giving me a bonus or a pay rise. And you can look at the evidence of the thought that you originally thought and really look at, is there enough evidence to suggest that that is definitely what the meeting is about? Or could there be another possibility? And if there's another possibility, could I maybe believe that that is the basis of the meeting and therefore the outcome is going to be a positive one? So it's about creating better thoughts and catching those thoughts and really elevating your thoughts and your limiting beliefs and turning them round into something that is, a lot more positive. And this isn't, again, it's not about toxic positivity. It's just about really being the own jury on your thoughts, on your beliefs, looking at the evidence based on previous experience and really trying to turn that around and evaluate it and really look at, am I just jumping the gun here? Am I just being really presumptuous? Or am I really, is this definitely what it's about? If they haven't put any context to that meeting in your diary, the likelihood is there could be many, many eventualities to that. I mean, the other thing that you can do is obviously speak to your boss and say, when you put that meeting in my diary, could you give me a little bit of context just so that I'm not running away with my thoughts? But there are going to be times in life where you don't have context, or maybe it's not something that you can have context about. Maybe you've had a thought of, for those of you that are regular listeners to the show, or maybe you know me personally, you won't have been able to get away without hearing me talk about Simprove. Simprove is a scientifically backed, water-based probiotic drink. You drink it daily and it has been scientifically proven to help with things like bloating, IBS symptoms, pain. It was actually a dietitian friend of mine that introduced it to me last year, and I honestly wouldn't be without it now. It's helped with my energy, with my bloating, it's helped with my immune system, and also things like my skin. The list is honestly endless. Now, I have got a code for you. So if you'd like to try Simprove, you can get 50%, that's a massive 50% off your first 3-month subscription by going on to simprove.com and putting in the code Nikki50. That's NIKKI 50, or clicking the link in the show notes. I don't know, you're going to meet your new partner's parents and your immediate thought is, oh, what if they don't like me? What if his ex was better than me, or her ex was better than me, or they don't like what I do for a living, or they don't like the way that I dress? All of these thoughts, first of all, I'd work on your self-confidence and self-esteem, because tearing yourself down like that ain't no good for anyone. But if you start having these thoughts with something like that and there's no evidence to back up how they're going to feel because you've not met these people before, you can go on the evidence of, well, actually, I know I'm a really good person. I know that I make my partner happy. I know that he's told me that his parents or her parents are amazing and that they are really good people. So what if they love me? What if this is the start of an amazing relationship with them? What if I go into that meeting and they are so happy that I've helped to make this person so happy, their son or their daughter? And the energy that you then take into that first meeting is so different. Imagine meeting someone for the first time and they think you're going to hate them. So they're like head down, shaking your hand, maybe not giving eye contact or really reserved. As the person meeting them, you're going to think that that's something to do with you. Whereas if someone comes in, head up, shakes your hand, big smile, that's giving off good energy. That is a higher frequency emotion, and that is going to affect the outcome of that meeting. There's no doubt about it. So creating a positive thought will create that belief, will create positive emotions, and it's going to help affect the outcome of whatever it is that you're trying to attract. let's say you're trying to manifest or create, I don't know, a house. Say you want to move house. This is actually really relevant to us because this is something we're going to be looking at next year. Say you found your dream house and it's just slightly out of the realm of what it is that you can afford. If you go into that house viewing and you think, oh, this is too expensive, they're never going to drop the price, we're never going to be able to afford to live here, don't even know why we're looking at the house, what sort of frequency is that giving off? What sort of emotion is that giving off to the people whose house you're viewing? If they're there at the time and you come in and it just feels negative, it feels like you don't really want the place, it feels like you're not making any effort to connect, to ask questions, because in your mind, you're just thinking, we're not going to get this. Whereas that could be seen to them as, you're not that interested, you're not that bothered. So why would they go out of their way to try and meet you halfway or to try and get to know you if that's what you're giving off? Whereas let's say you go into that meeting and you're like, I don't know how this is going to happen, but this house is going to be ours. We are going to attract this. We are going to create all possibilities that this house can come to us. Yes, it's out of our current price range, but this house is going to be ours. And you go in and you meet the vendor, you've got big smiles, you tell them how beautiful their home is. You create such a awe about you and an aura about you that you are an aura about you. That's not a thing, is it? It's definitely aura. Let's just ignore that I said that. An aura about you, that the people are drawn to you. You come across as really warm and friendly, and they want you to have that house. What do you think the chances are of that person getting the house, that version of you versus the first one? And sometimes it's not about faking it till you make it, but it is about acting as if. We are human beings. We are not human doings. And whilst there is an element of action involved in this, so let's take the example of the house, you have to book the viewing, you have to attend the viewing, you have to turn up and be warm and approachable and ask questions. You have to create those opportunities for yourself. If you just see that house on Rightmove or Zoopla or whatever the platforms are in your country, and you're like, I really like that house, and then you just sit there and do nothing, what do you think the chances are of you getting that house? Like, almost zero. So you have to create the action. The word action is even in the phrase law of attraction. You have to take the action, right? You know that. We've done so many episodes on this. But we are human beings, and we have to act as if, and we have to tap in to that best version of ourselves. Some people call it your higher self, but that best, highest version of you, the person that has what you want, the person that has achieved what you want to achieve, the person that is and radiates what it is that you want to be and how you want to show up. You have to think and act and feel like that person. So if you're struggling with being that and creating that from the place that you are now, so let's say your circumstances don't allow for you to buy this house, you're there or thereabouts, but there's a slight mismatch. I'm not saying go and look at $25 million houses and act as if you've got it and you're going to get it. There's an element of action that you need to take in this that is, we can get $25 million houses, but the chances are if you're sat in a $300,000 or $400,000 pound or dollar house right now, that you're probably not creating the beliefs that you can achieve that. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done on mindset. But let's say you're going to view a $700,000 or $800,000 house or $1,000 house. You know that you can upgrade the home that you're in now, but you're not quite there yet. How would the person that achieves that, how would the person that lives in that home, how would the version of you that has that house show up? What thoughts would they have? Would they be thinking, oh, we can't afford this, this isn't for us, we're not going to get this? Or would they be thinking, yeah, we need to do some work, but we can definitely get this? Would they be thinking of where they're going to put their furniture? Would they be thinking of creating a really good relationship with the vendor, of coming across well, somebody that they want to sell to? And would they believe that it was possible for them to get this house? So it's sometimes just about tweaking your thoughts based on that best version of you that has what it is that you want, that has achieved what it is that you want to achieve. And then to really visualize it, to get into the emotion of having what you want to have, you've got to get into that visualization. So imagine yourself living in that home. Imagine opening your front door and walking onto the driveway and getting into your car every day. Imagine coming back home from whether you've been to see friends or family or you've been out at work, and getting out of your car and opening the front door. What does the house smell like? What can you see? Where would your furniture go? Has it got a lovely big garden or backyard? Can you see yourself there in the summer? Where would your Christmas tree go? You have to get into the details so that you feel the emotion of having it. Similarly, like the meeting with your boss, you have to get into the emotion of, they've just given me a promotion or a pay rise. How would I feel? Where in your body do you feel that emotion? And really tapping into that, because that is going to change your frequency, and changing the frequency is what this is all about. And you can only do that by really tapping into a higher frequency emotion. So joy, happiness, I mean, the absolute highest frequency emotion is complete contentment and enlightenment. But even just a couple down on the scale, there is a emotional frequency scale that I will put in the show notes. So even if you're maybe feeling a bit anxious, how can you tap into, you might not be able to go from anxious to joy, but how can you tap into an emotion that's maybe 1 or 2 up on that frequency scale? And say no to everything that isn't that. Once you've visualized yourself in that house, say no to everything that isn't that. If you see yourself achieving the promotion, say no to everything that is going to get in your way or is not going to let you achieve it. You have to truly believe that you can achieve and do these things and attract them into your life and be that version 2.0 of you. So if this was me, let's say I've got a goal to have a huge podcast. I want it to be my job. I want to have a big audience that's truly engaged, that messages me all the time, tells me how great the episodes are, gives me feedback, wants to share with their friends, is always sharing on social media. How would that feel? I have to tap into the emotion of how would that feel to have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of downloads, to be in the charts, to create a community and to create something that makes me feel so much joy, which, by the way, this podcast does. I'm not quite at that level yet, but the joy that I feel creating this and engaging with you guys does make me feel that. But if I could just up level that and create that emotion, what are the chances that then when I do these episodes, I'm going to come across as so much more positive and happy? I'm going to share my messages with you in a completely different way than if I came on and was talking like this because I didn't feel like anyone was bothered or listening. It gives a whole different energy, right? So what are the chances then that people are going to share those podcasts versus these ones? So better thoughts are going to create better beliefs, which are going to create better feelings. Those feelings are what are going to attract what you want into your life. And this works for literally everything. How you feel and what you put out there into the world is going to create positive or negative outcomes. And like I said at the start, like, we're not talking about being super positive and happy 24/7, because life happens. I've got some people in my life at the moment that are going through some really, really tough, rough shit. Let's be honest. They're going through times where they need a lot of support, and it's hard for them. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's tough to support as well, because I want to do that in the best way possible. But for them at the moment, I'm not sat there saying, you need to think better emotions, you need to be more positive. But there is an element of not just dwelling in the negative emotions for too long and actually trying to at least elevate yourself up that emotion scale just slightly so that you can have better thoughts day by day. Because if you stay there for too long, if you're in grief for, years and years and years, you're not allowing yourself to be the best version of yourself. You're not allowing yourself to give out the better energy that's going to create more positive outcomes. So I hope that makes sense. I know for some of you, this will be like, law of attraction for beginners, and you'll have known all this stuff and this is just a refresher. For some of you, maybe this is the first time you're hearing this and it's all new and you've got questions. Please, please, please do drop me a message. I'm happy to share more, chat this through. Let me know if you want to go deeper, you want me to go deeper into anything that I've said today in other future episodes. There's so much more that I can talk about this. But in essence, if you take anything away from today, it's that your energy and your emotions are what are really impacting you day to day and creating the life that you've got. And I think the other thing that I just really want to say is when people say, I'm going to start manifesting isn't something that you switch on or off. We have been manifesting our whole lives. The life that you have now is a complete and utter reflection of what you've put out there. If there's things in your life that you are like, well, I didn't manifest that. How could that? I've manifested that. The general place that you are in life is a result of your thoughts, your beliefs, and your feelings. If you don't believe that you can achieve something, chances are you're not going to achieve it. So just by changing these things, it can create much more positive and better outcomes for you. But everything that you have now is a result of what you've been created. So manifestation isn't something that you just start doing, but it can be something that you do in a more positive way now that you're more aware of it. So I hope all that makes sense. It does bug me when people say, I'm going to start manifesting. It's like, you've been doing it your whole life. It's just that you've not been aware of it, and therefore the outcomes probably aren't. I mean, I know what they're saying. They're saying they're going to stop being more conscious about it. So yeah, being conscious, being an observer of your thoughts, changing those beliefs, creating better feelings. It's a whole vibe. So, but yeah, please do share your feedback and let me know if you want me to do future episodes on this, or there's anything you want me to go into more detail about. And let me know how you get on. Let me know the things that you manifest, the things that you create in your life as a result of just focusing on this a bit more, just paying attention to those thoughts and catching those thoughts and changing up your feelings. So have a great week, guys, and I will see you all again next Sunday. Thanks for listening. You can find us on Instagram at HelloSundayPod, or you can email us on hellosundaypod@outlook.com. Have a great week.